Hello, my name is Pylon John, and welcome back to Haddaway here in Cities Skylines 2. Between episodes, I've been working on this little bridge over the railway, trying to get it to look a little more realistic. And I replaced the server farm prop I had back here in the business park with the pharma plant, which provides 100 jobs. I also added a few more farms and some houses over here. I called this district Glen Farms, which used to be the name of the McNeil Farms district, until I got a suggestion in the comments, which, by the way, are always appreciated. And I'm sure that there's some lore to be developed around these names. Anyway, this is episode 8 now, and I feel like we've been building too slowly. So in this episode, we're going to develop most of the remaining open space in the map tiles that we have, and finally revisit the Rivercrest neighborhood down here, as we get ready to start expanding the city. Thanks to the work we've done in the last 2 episodes, especially getting rid of the tile upkeep cost, our budget is in a much better place, although we want to make sure our finances are as sound as possible before we really start building big. But before we get to all that, let's visit our post office. I used a dirt decal to cover up the lettering on this Eastern European post office, but now we have this amazing decal pack from Canadian Moose. And while I'm not really into patriotism or giving free advertising to real-life corporations, especially ones we should be boycotting, I have no problem repping Canada Post. Let's get another decal to cover up the lettering on this door, and maybe a third one up here. We can use Better Bulldozer to get rid of this signage. And this spot up here is just begging for one more decal. Okay, let's get to work on this parcel of land right here. I was originally going to go with farmland, but let's imagine that it's been converted into a suburban residential development. The first thing I gotta do is come up with an appropriate road layout. One that'll encourage private automobile use but discourage through traffic. This'll take a few tries and the use of some references on Google Maps. I figure this neighborhood will be populous enough to merit its own school, so let's place a small vanilla elementary school up here. And let's give the kids a soccer field since we don't have one in the city yet. We'll just have to move a street over to do it. Then we'll use Move It to nudge the school over, which leaves us just enough space for a basketball court, which we'll replace later with a parking lot. Now, I know I want to use the USA Southwest low-density housing for this neighborhood, so I think I'll just zone the entire thing and see how it looks. And right away, I'm not satisfied with this. There's all kinds of weird gaps and colors and architectural styles that aren't really what I'm going for here. So I'm going to resort to the use of Move It and, of course, Plop the Growables. I'll just come into the options here to allow plopped buildings to level up. Another decision which I'll soon regret, since we can't be sure what the buildings will look like when they do level up. And I don't mind having some asset repetition here. It's probably how this neighborhood would have been developed anyway. We do have some irregularly shaped lots for us to customize. Which we can do using surfaces, and net lane fences. Yeah, sorry kids, the teachers need parking. Besides, you already have a soccer field, you should just be happy with that. And it looks like the neighbors approve the change. I think I'll replace the planters with some bushes. Although the driveways of these houses have a tendency to go underneath the road and pop out the other side, so I'll just nudge them back slightly. And I should probably place another small emergency shelter here. Once again, mostly for the lore. But I'll immediately turn it off to save money. Okay, fine. I guess I should probably give this neighborhood a few parks, shouldn't I? If we get rid of this one house and finally manage to activate Move It to scooch this one over, we have a spot that's the perfect size for a large playground. And since the average household has like 5 dogs in this game, we'll put a dog park over here. Then we'll make use of Tree Controller to age all of the trees that come with the assets in this neighborhood. And just look at the difference that makes. We need a snazzy name to market this housing development. Fallow Grove seems appropriate for this former farmland. And sticking with the theme of this region, we'll name the streets after cities in Scotland, if I can spell them. And there's one city name I decided to use in the name of the district, which shall henceforth be known as Sterling Grove. Yes, I did spell that correctly. And with Sterling Grove complete, let's get to work on another low-density housing development on the other side of Glengarry Road. For this one, I think I'll use the UK low-density detached housing. This road network takes into account both the high-voltage power lines down here and the drainage ditch for the farms. This time, I think I'll go straight to plopping, although I don't mind letting them level up. At least the ones I don't have to customize, since the UK assets don't tend to change dramatically in appearance. Before we get to that though, I'm gonna manipulate some nodes in order to widen some intersections and smooth some curves. Like so. Now, the UK low-density housing tends to have a greater variety of distinct assets at each building level. But as I said, less variation as they level up. So it's a little more predictable, but you still don't know exactly how they'll level up. And taking a moment to visit Glengarry Village, it looks like a tornado may have actually done some damage, which would be a first in Cities Skylines 2. Yeah, 118 damaged buildings and 195 casualties. But I just put way too much effort into detailing this area, so I'm gonna load an autosave and turn off natural disasters. For now. Back to our new residential development. We have just enough space here for the new activity playground, but the colors are a little garish for this neighborhood, so we can just delete these surfaces. and this fence, add our own surface, and make the park a little bigger by placing our own fence. As for the name of this new district, I think we'll go with Hedgecroft. And Hedgecroft can get a nice red Canada Post mailbox. And then I'll plant some trees. My technique is to first come through with the brush, with anarchy turned off, and in this case plant some alder, spruce, oak, and birch of different ages. I'll then come through and do the same with the wild bushes after, to get a more forested feel. Then I'll individually plant some trees and bushes by hand to fill in any obvious gaps. In Hedgecroft, I'll add London Plane and Linden to the mix, since the UK houses tend to come with those trees. I'll then plant a little more densely along the drainage ditch. And as we get further away from the river, more and more inside the drainage ditch. And suddenly it's fall, so here's what the finished product looks like in the fall. Now that we've got Sterling Grove and Hedgecroft complete, let's move north, or at least what I'm calling north, and extend Glen Farms into these plots. Our slimmest surpluses are in grain and livestock, so let's focus on those. Not all of the farms grow a single crop, so we'll leave some space for a second or third. And add some houses for the farmers and their families. And recolor them to match. Then we can paint in some fertile land, but only where we need it. Right underneath the farms. We now have some amazing farming surfaces created by Harristes and published by the Broman, but sometimes all you need is a little dirt. This tones down the vanilla agriculture surface nicely. Now let's hop over to the other side of Glengarry Road. And if there's a surface we don't love, thankfully we have the Area Bucket Replace tool that lets us switch quickly and easily, and find one that we do. Here I'll add a couple of farming props to bring some more life to this area. And because this space is quite narrow, I'll plant a few trees by hand. Then I'll come through with the tree brush, and with anarchy turned back on, fill in any gaps. So here's what the finished drainage ditch looks like as it cuts through Hedgecroft and then Glen Farms. And I don't know about you, but I'm really happy with that. But I need to know whose idea it was to put a barbed wire fence around a soccer field. And I don't know, they should probably be fired. If it was meant to keep out unhoused people, clearly it didn't work. So I replaced it with a lower, less spiky fence and the large Japanese ball fence behind the nets. With natural disasters turned off, Haddaway won't get its iconic wildfires, but buildings and vehicles can still catch on fire, including what looks to be a road maintenance vehicle that got into an accident here. Unfortunately, firefighters don't seem to have made it to this house on time. Or this one either. I think the reason is that the firefighters are stuck in the terrible traffic on the only road into town. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but you're too late. Once we've got the fires under control, we can head south, or at least what I'm calling south, to the long-neglected Rivercrest district. And maybe finally stop dumping raw sewage into the river. I'm eventually gonna wanna run a second arterial road from the highway down here. So this neighborhood burned down a while ago and was rebuilt on its own. So it isn't exactly what I had initially intended. Let's start by deleting the existing housing and these fences I placed. We can even rework the existing road layout to integrate it a little better into the rest of the city. With some inspiration from southeastern Ontario on Google Maps, these were intended to be some semi-rural kind of summer homes down by the river. So here I'll just use a couple of these 3x6 single-family homes. I think one is EU and one is North American. And I know I could have removed these using the options menu for Better Bulldozer, but I'll just come through and delete the hedges and fences manually, so that I can give each of these houses a nice big yard. And place my own fences all the way around. Let's just make sure that this district includes all of the houses in this neighborhood. And yeah, I really do think it's time to get rid of this. We'll need to spend 2 of our 60 available development points to unlock the Japanese water treatment plant, which will fit perfectly next to this large fire department. Although, strangely, the firefighters don't seem too happy about it. Adding a prop version of the advanced filtering system will make this look a little more interesting. Let's just extend this surface. And the fence. Barbed wire is much more appropriate here than it is around a soccer field. I'll just use the asset variation changer to get the right color. Clear up some of the trees and extend this surface under the fence as well. These small details can make a noticeable difference. Now that we've finally got our wastewater treatment plant, we can get rid of this sewage outlet. And trim this pipe back. I just realized that the firefighting helicopters, when operational, were dumping poop water onto fires. So, yeah. Anyway, let's finish up the road network on this side of Rivercrest and extend these lots, but leave some space between them because I want to leave this area a little more wild. And instead of fences, we'll have wild plants separating the properties. To make this district look a little older and more rural, we'll run some of these little power lines everywhere. Rivercrest needs some parks. And maybe a police station to help deal with this high crime risk. It looks like the main branch of the Glengarry RCMP already has its jail full, probably of student protesters and low-level drug offenders. If we add a small vanilla police station next to the firefighting helicopter depot, we can make it look like one complex. Although, I don't know why I sped the game up. Anyway, let's use recolor to try to match this red. Or we could just copy and paste it. And give this a little scooch. That looks good. And our park coverage in Rivercrest is decent. We've got a small playground up in this corner, a large playground down here, tennis court, a community pool, and the dog activity park. And that should do it for Rivercrest for today. But there are a couple more things we need to deal with before we wrap it up. One of them is this intersection. This is the first left turn that incoming traffic can make as they arrive into Glengarry Village, and the left turn lane is always backed up. This is a road that we made with the Road Builder mod, and we can reduce this 5-meter wide median to a 2-meter wide median, which will allow for a 3-meter wide turning lane. Let's just drag and drop one more lane from the menu. And everyone is suddenly very confused. The lane is on the right side of the road, it's just not going the right way. That's better. One last thing. As I mentioned, I think we finally need to add a second road coming in from the highway here. Although there are some lumpies and bumpies in the terrain that we'll have to respect. Or flatten out. Either way. This hill on the left is too big to flatten out though, we'll have to go around it. And I'm not great with interchanges, so I'll just try to copy the existing one. And to be honest, this took me an embarrassingly long time for such a simple interchange. I then realized that if I want to avoid an at-grade crossing, I need to redraw this rail line a little bit lower. And with Anarchy on, I can use the basic Replace tool to nudge the two rail lines together. Then we can create another little bridge here. Although, no, I don't think that's high enough. We can fix it with Move It. So folks in the center lane will have the option of either going eastbound or westbound, although eventually they'll have to merge with the other lane. Move It to the rescue once again. Although sometimes it's easier just to demolish and redo it. And after working on this for way too long, I'm finally happy with how it looks. But I'm wondering why no one is using it. And I think this is why. This road's going the wrong way. We just need to turn it around. I'll just make sure to have the right options selected, and there. Perfect. Let's connect up all our collector roads to the new arterial. Oops, I left the key walls turned on. There. And now we're starting to get some traffic. I just think we need to rename this. And I've had enough of the Scottish theme, so let's go with a name that evokes the geographic area that inspired the city and call it St. Lawrence Boulevard. With Sterling Grove, Hedgecroft, the New Glen Farms, Rivercrest, and St. Lawrence Boulevard all complete, I think that'll be a wrap for today. We're all set to start building up towards our eventual downtown over the next few episodes, and now we've got enough money in the bank to do it. As always, I really appreciate you watching, and if you appreciated this video, a like, comment, and subscribe would all help out a lot. I'm Pylon John. Until next time, Free Palestine.